Howdy everyone, Nimby here. Today in the vise we're going to be tying up a Western Steelhead Bee. This is a very local and very efficient fly. It was originally tied by Robert Head Brown, who was a local conservationist and fly fisher. Hey Ethan's Lure, good to have you in, mate. So we're just starting with a basic thread base. Spread out a little bit, we're going to be covering the whole body in wool. For the tail for this, we're going to be using a gray fox squirrel tail. And it's also going to be our wing for the fly. I want to get some of this nice gray brown around the edge here. And it calls for a fairly robust tail because this is what's going to be floating the fly. And it's a semi-floater. It's meant to be pulled through riffles and basically just skimmed through the surface film. Just like, you know, you wouldn't have a terrestrial like a bee normally under the water unless it got sucked under, so. But yeah, this is a bee pattern, I guess, when you break it down to what it is. So there's our tail fibers. I'm going to be stacking this and cleaning it out here first. I haven't used this tail in a while, so I can't remember if it had a lot of underfluff or not. Oh, it doesn't look like it actually had too much. That's kind of all I'm getting from it. Now, squirrel being squirrel is going to be super slippy. So we'll add a little drop of head cement when we tie it in. And I may even use some super glue. We'll see how it goes. But first things first, we want to stack that so we get that nice white and silver and black all lined up. You don't have to stack it though. You can tie this as a really dirty fly because it's typically fished in like a riffle. The outline and the color contrast are really what's going to matter with this fly. But no sense in not making it look pretty, right? There we go. I probably got a bit much here for the tail, so I'm gonna see how much we got first. And I don't need as much for the wing. The tail should be more substantial than the wing. No, actually, you know, that's actually not too bad. Okay, yeah, that'll work. There's a couple kind of off fibers in here, but we'll see how they sit. So that's what you want there, and you're gonna tie it in. It's kind of similar to a Royal Cochinor. You want to get that color band in there, and this tail is what's going to be floating off the fly, so you do want to have it tied in there fairly substantial. We're going to be doing it in at the working body length, so it's going to be a good sized tail sticking out. But that's what's going to catch the surface film and the surface tension. So to make this easier, I'm going to pre-cut this. So now that we got our size here, I'm going to be cutting it right about here. so I can get my thread in up halfway, similar to like you do a deer hair tail. Okay, so sorry, I didn't really explain that part. So I'm taking it here, I'm flattening it out in my fingers so you can see it's wider than it is thick. And I'm just going through the flat section with my thread, so pushing it in and then turning it. That way my thread will be basically in the middle of the clump. And I'm going to use light wrap, even a finger pinch if I can grab her in there. There we go. And we want to get, say, 4 light wraps around it. We're not binding down yet. We want to get those 4 in there. Can hold this side and check. Yep, that looks pretty good. Hold it back here again. And now I can bind down real hard. And you can see that front flaring up a little bit, which is a good flare for a squirrel. Doesn't normally flare all that much. I want to get a good 4 more bound wraps super tight on there. And that should stop it from going anywhere. Just get any little fluffs we got left in there. Good deal. And our thread should be stopped right at the barb of the hook, which it is. So we're good there. Just gonna adjust that hook a little bit. That's a little better. There we go. Okay, so I am gonna throw just a dab of head cement on there, and then we'll tie those butt ends in. Now for this fly, I like to use a messy black wool. Not quite on the side of like a mohair, but pretty similar. Like something that's got a good amount of fluff on it. And you can use a acrylic. I'm pretty sure this one's an acrylic. Let's see what the package says here. Did I mark it? Yeah, acrylic mohair and black. Yeah, you can use a traditional. You can definitely use a traditional, just regular, straight up wool. That's what it would have traditionally been tied with. But I find that the Antron, or not Antron, I just said the word now, I can't bring it up to my head. Acrylic. The nice thing, because this is fished almost like a dry fly, like it's meant to be cast out, floated down, and then pulled into the water column when you're stripping it back or through the riffles. And I'm just going to bind these tag ends in here, and then we'll get them bound in properly. But the acrylic yarn holds a lot less water and will shed it when you're casting it as you're flipping it back and forth. So this will allow it to be a lot more floatant than if it was wool, because wool holds a lot more water and it lends itself a little bit more to being better for, say, nymphs and that sort of thing. Okay, so we're going to end right here. I'm going to build up a little bit of a thread base going up to those cutoffs because I don't want to have a step there. It's not going to be a big deal because we've got this big fuzzy yarn, but our next color, which is yellow, is going to go in that section. And that's another reason I'm not tying the black in all the way across. Even though I am using black thread below here, I want to reduce the bleed through on the yellow because I want it to have a nice pop of color there. And that'll allow us to get a couple more wraps of yellow in here for thickness, and that'll help to reduce that bleed through. If I increase the thickness there with the black, then it's going to look more of like a gray yellow after it gets wet. We want to have that bright pop of contrast. That's kind of the whole point of this fly. I'm going to be preening back a lot of these extra wispy fibers because I really just want a little bit, and this will wisp up as it's being fished as well. And I want the back to be somewhat tight, like so. It's not a very thick fly. I've seen people tie these quite thick, even in using like chenille, like a large or large medium chenille. And that's fine too. But traditionally these were fairly thin, long flies. Again, to keep them more buoyant. The more material you add on, the more it's going to soak up water and the less it's going to float in. You want to have a fairly thinner body, but you want to kind of keep that taper going. And this wispy acrylic that's coming off is going to help to keep it on that surface film as well. Okay, for our next one, we're going to be using, this is a poly, there's a poly yarn. Same thing as the other one. It's not, oh, sorry, I normally go over that. I forgot that part. It is a size 6 Aberdeen hook. Whoa, this is not the right music for this fly. There we go. Okay, so I've taken a 4-strand yarn and broken it down into 2 sections of 2-strand, just so I'm not wrapping all day. But again, this is a synthetic yarn, and it won't hold as much water as the natural wool. You could use a sparkle yarn for this as well. I have done that on a few times, and it does look real nice. So that adds like a little bit of extra UV and flash to this middle section. In this case, we're just using a bright yellow. I'm going to, it's trying to double up on that first wrap, but it's not going to let me, so we're not going to bother. Alright, so we're going to do 3 wraps on this, or 3 back and forth. So 1 this direction. We want to have it about the width of our bobbin head, give or take. Don't have to go crazy with it. It's really just an extra shot of color to add contrast. So about a 1/2 inch tool in width, depending on what size you're tying this in. You can tie this anywhere from size 8 to a 12. They actually work a treat in creeks and stuff in the summer, especially if you're around campgrounds and that, where you're going to have a lot of wasps and bees. By a creek or by a river. Okay. One key point for that whole center wrap is you want to make it thick enough so that you're on the same band as the other. Looks like I probably could have got one more wrap in there, actually. Let's see. Speaking of my own tips, there we go. You want to have the contrast, but you don't want to make it look like it's 2 separate materials. You want to make it look like it's one bug. Alright, there we go. The yellow in. Go back to our black. Save that for the next one. Just gonna back my thread up here, tying those down and creating a little bit of a lip for the next material. Okay, so now before we tie the next one in, I'm gonna have to get our front wing going. tidy neat this section up there. Okay. You can do this first, like you can do this before you do the body, but the problem is you're gonna have it sticking out and you're gonna bump into it, and being that it's squirrel and it likes to spin anyway, there's a much higher likelihood that it's going to spin. Oh, and the other thing we need to do for sure is make sure we got a thread base all the way up to the front here. Hey, good to have you in. I know I'm doing a slightly different time frame today, but I was working on all the shorts this morning instead. There we go. Hey, buddy, good to have you in, mate. Okay, I'm just looking for that same kind of white banding here. And the front wing is actually quite a bit smaller. It's going to be about half of what we got for the tail there. So I'm going to go with like that much, and then we'll see how it is once we get it cleaned out and stacked. I can always separate it. Okay, so we got it all cleaned out. Yeah, this may be a bit much, but we're gonna stack it, see what we're sitting at, and I can always separate a bit out. How you doing today, Muddy? Wife's making some barbecue chicken and a cake for us tonight, so I'm excited about that. This is a semi-important fly to me. Not only is it super local, being it's a Robert Haig Brown pattern, and I very much enjoy the gentleman. And he was named after, actually the area I was filming the salmon in by Scotch Creek there's a park, provincial park named after him there. So if you want to check that out, you can check out the salmon videos and the shorts for the sockeye salmon spawning. But in any case, this is one of his patterns. And it's also the last pattern that I have. I've tied every pattern in this book now. This is the Flies of the Northwest from the 70s, from the in the Seattle area mostly, but it goes up and down all the West Coast. And this is my last fly on the last page. So we've tied every single fly in this book on lives, and I think that's really cool. Tied the whole book. Hey David, good to have you in, mate. Yeah, this will be our last flight. I gotta move on to another book. I find the books are really, they're really useful for me, and then like, they give me something to look forward to, and they force me to tie patterns that I wouldn't necessarily want to tie or think about tying. So they help me get better. Yeah, we got a couple hundred flies in that book, and we tied every single one of them on these lives. Yep, Steelhead Bee. Yeah, that's pretty substantial. So I think we're gonna have to separate that. and I'll make another wing out of it. Mer. Oh, glad you made it home good. You know, actually, I'm not really... That might be okay. It's probably just like a hair too thick. Nah, I think we'll run with it. We'll make it work. I think it'll be okay. Really? Cool. Yeah, please do. I'd like to see that. There you go. All my salmon and steelhead flies are rubbing off on David. Okay, so what we're tying this one in, we're tying in this section here. And this is going to be our front wing, and we're actually going to be folding this up after. So we want to have it, the black here, kind of just going past the eye. So pretty much right where I have it. I'm going to hold it like that and then cut that off. Squirrel being a squirrel, this is probably going to be annoying, but we'll get to it. Once this part of the fly is done, the rest of it's pretty simple. This part can be a bit of a bear to get through. Just because squirrel can be squirrel. Squirrel! Okay, so we want to have it tied in this section here, but I want to wrap it kind of right there and then bind down these ends there. And the reason this is going to be annoying is because I got to hold it in my tying hand and kind of tie backwards from what my brain's used to. So we'll split this in half here. So my thread's going down the middle. We'll lay it right where I want it there. Bring it down, and this is just going to be light wraps, just to, if I can get it to do it without flipping over. Ugh. Yeah, it's not ideal, but it's good enough. It's not just good, it's good enough. Alright, so we got 4 wraps now. And now I want to do 4 really hard wraps, which is the hard part. So I'm going to lose tension on it. And I'm doing this by feel, like I have the eye pinched in my hand, so I can feel how far back I am from the eye, and I need to leave a space there so I can underwrap it to get this to stand up after. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to trust my wraps and try and get 4 more without getting this to drop. Okay, I'm going to put it just a couple drops of head cement before we wrap this in so it doesn't spin on me. Yeah, that worked out pretty good. Hey, Luca. Thanks for dropping in, mate. We're doing a Steelhead Bee today. So this pattern's kind of special to me for a couple reasons. One, it's a local pattern tied by Robert Haig Brown. But it's also the last fly in my in this book, which is an old book from my father-in-law for West Coast flies. But this is the last one in the book, and we've tied everything in this whole book, a couple hundred flies on lives here, which is really cool. So I need to get me another book now. Move on to another one. But yeah, that's been a little personal achievement there. Stay, book, stay. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to tie these butt ends in. Hey, good to have you in. Is that, sorry, I'm having trouble reading. My screen's got small text on it. Is it Lemus? Lemus fly tying? Sorry, hopefully I didn't butcher your name, mate. But good to have you in either event. We're here almost every day, pretty much every day. Normally early mornings. But always good to have another tire in here. We're a pretty chill channel. I like to go over 1 or 2 patterns in a session, and hopefully everyone can learn a few tips and tricks and new materials. Okay, I have 2 options here. I'm gonna tie in this. Actually, I'm gonna tie in. I am going to tie in. I had a hackle sitting here. Where did it go now? Okay, so we're not going for like a dry fly hackle necessarily on this, even though it is kind of fished like a dry fly. We're going for more like a saddle hackle. And this is more to represent legs on the bee. Yeah, we're pretty... Oh, Liam, sorry. Jeez, I really butchered your name, my bad. That makes sense. Yeah, just start. That's why they're all there, for prosperity. I'm perfectly happy to have people go back and watch the VODs. Okay, so I'm gonna crush my tip here with my forceps just to give it a little bit of a rough surface. You can also cut it so you're leaving the rachis, or leaving some barbs on the rachis as well. I'm going to tie this in facing forward just so it's out of my way for the body. And then we'll tie the body in. I just want to get this bound down. It's also got a little bit of that head cement left on there. That'll help keep the rachis in really well. And now that our threads on this side we'll put in. It's all good, they're not going anywhere. The problem is there's always a new one coming in the next day, right? There is a playlist, or I do have a playlist created too, so if you want to use the playlist to keep track of stuff, that might help. But yeah, thoroughly happy that you're on board and keeping up with everything, Luca. That makes me happy. I thoroughly appreciate that. So again, we're just using this. It's almost more like a mohair, but I like the kind of dirty look to this fly, because the whole point of it is it's supposed to be fished like a dry fly through the surface film. So you're supposed to just get it to sit, you know, bring it up through the riffles where the fish are going to see it, and then pull it in just the bottom. Let's see, what color? Yeah, you're a little octopus. If you want a different color or a different animal, you can let me know and I can change that up for you. But you'll be an octopus every time you come in if you leave it the way it is. Everyone gets their own little character. And I can customize them, but for the most part, I keep them as they are. But I do try to match it to people's personalities and what they like and type of person they are and that kind of thing. Everyone gets a little custom dude. Okay, I'm glad you like it, mate. Yeah, Luca's a bull because he works on a farm and it suits him. He's a nice little black bull. Hey, Ryan, good to have you in, man. I saw your live come up, but I missed it. So I'm going to do the hackle here first. I probably should have stripped a few fibers off of here to start off with, but that's okay. You want it? What do you want, Ron? What kind of animal you want? I'll be happy to change it for you. This is a Steelhead Bee. It's a very local pattern. It's the last pattern in my tying book. I'm gonna grab another one here, and it's originally tied by Robert Haig Brown, who I have a lot of respect for. He was a conservationist, and he did a lot of work in British Columbia here to keep the steelhead and salmon populations to what they are. Oh, I broke my racus there. Wow. Yeah, so he wasn't just a fly fisherman, but he was a very big conservationist. He came up with a lot of our... Yeah, I kind of figured, so that's why I picked that one for you. I'm glad you like that one. Yeah, if you got anything you want there, Run, let me know what kind of animal you want to be. I'll see if I got it in my list. So this is done pretty sparse, this neck piece. It's really just to add some movement for legs. It's not really meant to float this fly at all. So we're just doing like a handful of messy... Yeah, because you're wee man, so I wanted a little chick for you. And of course I got my coyote. Yeah, let me get this flag done up here, Run, and if you want a different animal, I'll be more than happy to adjust it for you. You can change the color and whatnot too. Yeah, I picked the big old rooster for David because, well, he's David, but like all his flies are big and colorful and have a lot of personality, so I thought the big rooster would suit him really well. And if I had a shark, I would have given him a shark, but an otter was the closest sea animal I had. Okay, I'll see what I got, man. Just let me finish this one up and then I'll poke at it. I got a little whiff off the side here. I'm wondering if I can tie it back or if I should just leave it. I'll try and tie it back. I just got like a little puff of hackle that decided to go forward on me. I'm gonna try and wrap it back. Yeah, there we go. You want a fairly strong collar behind here where I'm wrapping now, like right here, because you're going to be lifting the wing up, and it needs something to push against, otherwise it'll spin. So we want to get at least a good 6 or 7 wraps. I don't want to necessarily make it thick, I want to make it dense. And if you have trouble with that spot there, oh, it's the yellow. Yeah, yellow is just this poly yarn. It's actually a carpet yarn, but it's just poly yellow. For the black, I'm using a. I want to keep saying Antron, but it's not Antron. It's acrylic. Acrylic mohair in black. Traditionally, this was tied with regular wool, like just regular straight up wool for the sheep wool. But the problem that I found tying it that way is it holds a lot of water, and that the body is what's floating this fly. It's not the hackle, so it's not fished the same way as like a regular dry fly would be. I'm not finishing off the fly here. I'm just doing a half hitch because, like I said, I need that. Yeah, it's a bumblebee, exactly. So we get a lot of bees that fly near the water when the steelhead come up that time of year, and they'll actually, what these ones do, or what this is imitating in the area that this was fished in, is the bees will actually go along the creeks and the rivers, excuse me, and they'll strip the oxidized wood off of the driftwood that the beavers cut down and everything. So there's always driftwood along the edge of the creeks and rivers here, and the bees will come by and they'll strip and they'll chew off little strips of it and pack their mouth full of it, and they'll fly back, and that's what they use to help build their homes and everything. And while they're doing that, a lot of times they'll make a mistake and they'll fall in the water. Yeah, basically the same idea. So again, this isn't really going to be a full-on... Oop, did I get it too close? Yeah, this isn't going to be a full-on stand-up wing. The idea is it's a long tube, and that this front and back is what actually floats the fly. So I want to make sure I got enough room back there too. Okay, so it did twist on me just a little bit. Well, that's okay. I'm happy with that. Squirrel's a thing. There we go. Yeah, so you want this to come up like that. Now, I'm going to throw 1 or 2 wraps underneath it. It's probably not needed. It's actually pretty good the way it is. A lot of times you'll have to wrap this to get it to stand up, but it actually looks like it's doing it on its own. So I think I'm not going to bother, actually. I was expecting that to not stand up as well, but it's actually doing really nice. Yeah, that's really good. I'm not going to bother. But if it doesn't want to stand up, yeah, they don't have any ice on. Well, it might actually now. We hit a cold snap. We're about minus 17 right now, so the lake's ice is actually thickening up. Yeah, I know. Tell me about it. Squirrel tail is such a fight. But if you're using the like the fur farther up the tail, like this stuff, it's a lot more, stiff, and it doesn't like to fluff up like this did. But I was using the stuff down here by the base, and it's a lot softer. So it'll behave a little better like this. But that's exactly what you want it to do. You want it to be on like a, I don't know, 20 or so degree angle, so that it's sitting in the water just like that. So I'm actually really happy with that one. That's quite nice. I'm actually gonna back my camera up just a hair here, even it might come out of focus a hair, so we can get the whole fly in there. That's better. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm happy. I'm gonna cut him off actually, and we'll just clean up some of that hackle that's going a little cattywampus, and I'll put a little bit of head cement on there. Where's my thread tie off spot? Right there. Yeah, so like I was saying, this fly is special to me for a couple of reasons. One, it's a local fly for a gentleman that I have a lot of respect for. I have numerous of his books. He's also an author. He wrote a lot of really good steelhead, salmon, trout fishing books. But he was very much one of the, yeah. Yeah, I generally fish like a 6 or an 8. I would fish this on a 7 or an 8 for sure. Because yeah, you need the weight, especially once this gets wet, right? Because the whole point of this is you want the surface area to be what's holding it up in the water, and you want to have the front wing here on that angle so that the well, the head or where the legs are is gonna be in the water surface, like below the water surface a bit. And then when you, yeah, this would be like late summer, kind of, yeah, mid to late summer when it's hot. This is typically when you'd fish this one. I got one hackle fiber kind of bent there. I'm just gonna clean this up. I got a couple there that are sticking out. I might need to, and I can't tell if he's tied in or if he's just loose. No, he is just loose, okay. I'll throw some head cement on there, we'll call it good. But yeah, this would be fished like mid to late summer when it's hot. Yeah, you basically want to cast it out. So you want to find an area where, normally I'd fish this in like the bend of a creek or the river where the main, not the main current, but one of the subcurrents is going along the edge. There's normally where there's going to be like an overhang of, I got a little bit in the fur there, that sucks. Where there's going to be a bit of an overhang where it's kind of undercutting the bank. Yeah, no, you're not going to. But these will fall into the water as they're harvesting that, it's not bark, but, you know, if you see like beaver cut wood, right, and it's been sitting on the beach for a while, it gets that kind of gray oxidation on the outside of it that's almost like a fur. The bees here will grab that and they'll chew it off, and it's a specific type of bee. I can't remember the full analytical name of it correctly, but they harvest that and they use it for, there's two different types that take it. There's one that'll make like a paper wasp kind of nest, but it's more bulbous, and they stick it up in the corners of everywhere in trees and stuff. And then there's another one that looks similar, but it's longer, like this one, and they're like a mud wasp, and they put it underneath. It's just a big rooster. Okay, so we're ready. We're gonna do our spin and spiel on this one. The dinner my wife's making is smelling just amazing and making my mouth water, so I'm gonna get this wrapped up here. And we're gonna start a new book, and we're gonna start a whole new setup here, so I'll have to look through my books. But yeah, we finally tied every fly in this book on our lives now. So a couple hundred flies in that one. Let's see here. Okay, 1 second, guys. I'll be right back. We'll just do our little spin and spiel on this guy. So today in the vise we have a Western Steelhead Bee. This was tied on a size 6 long shank Aberdeen hook. It can be tied anywhere from a size 8 to a size 12. It has a fox gray squirrel tail for the tail, a mohair black and yellow synthetic wool yarn for the body, and a saddle hackle for the leg section, and a front facing forward wing, same thing, out of gray fox squirrel tail. This was originally tied by Robert Haig Brown. It's a very local pattern for the interior BC. I have a lot of respect for the gentleman, and it was used to float down the riffles in the water. It's meant to be fished on the surface film and then dragged through underneath the surface film as you're coming around a creek bend or into the riffles where the bees and wasps would fall into the water and get carried in, and the steelhead will numb them up. Works really good for trout as well, anything big that's in the rivers and creeks for mid to late summer. Wonderful pattern. Really happy to tie it, and just something you really should have in your box. You should have some type of pattern of this sort. A very productive and wonderful thing. Add a couple to your box, eh? There we go. Okay, we got that done. Let's run something other than a wormy squirmy. 2 seconds here, Ron. I'll get you sorted. Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I'm sure it'll work all like I'm sure it'll work all sorts of places because it's really just this type of bee pattern with all of the there's bees and wasps all up and down the whole continent, right? So sorry, I'm trying to find you in the long list of people here. There you are. Okay, so you're a snick. You're actually not a you're a snake. You're not a worm. Let's see what kind of animal we can switch you up to here. What suits run? He could make you a sloth. I don't know, what is that? Let's see. Oh, I turned you into a little chicken, yellow chicken with a top hat. Okay, hold on. Sorry guys, give me a second to get run set up here. What about a hyena? You might match a hyena, okay? There we go. Let's give you a rooster with a beret. There you go. What do you think, Ron? Is that good for you? I think that's better. That'll suit for you. I find it funny how big. No kidding, eh? I just found it funny. He was like, I just thought it totally suited David, and it's just this massive rooster. I'm like, okay, yeah, David's gonna get the massive rooster. I'm surprised. I don't know if I have a rat in here. Which is surprising because I really like ratties. Do I have a rat? Cool. Yeah, hyenas are cool. I think that does suit Run. We'll keep him as a hyena. I need to add some more animals here. I can change colors and stuff like that too, so. Yeah, I have a mouse. I don't think I have a rat. Interesting. I'll have to try and find a rat or make a rat icon, one or the other. Okay, guys. So we got that one done. I'm super happy with it. That turned out real well. That'll fish just fine. And like you could fish that in open water too, but it's really just designed to be floated down the riffles and around a corner. And then as soon as you get to that tight spot where you're mending your line a bit, you just give it a little pop and it'll go underneath the surface and they'll nail it. Well, you gotta pay your rent somehow, man. Okay, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up here, grab some dinner dins, and then we're gonna be doing a longer stream on Wednesday. I'm gonna try to go for 8 hours on Wednesday, so I'll be here all day. We're gonna try, and I think I'm gonna break it up into like 4 2-hour streams. Yeah. There, I'm glad everyone enjoyed. Thanks for stopping in. I appreciate everyone. And yeah, that's an awesome fly. You should add a couple to your box, eh? Good night, all. See you then.